Okay. Books out, please. We're going to finish page 21. And then we're going to continue with page 22. Phones away, please. Let's go. Just finished off last class. Last class we spoke about the 5 levels of the neshama of the soul, and we even located them based upon Chazal. Guys, computers only open to blank pages because people disturb people around you as well. So please respect your fellow students. We do not want to see your updates live. So page 21, let's have a look at the Nefesh HaChaim, Rav Chaim Volozhiner. If you remember, we spoke about the 3 main parts of the neshama. Right? We says located in the brain, in the moach. Yeah? And that controls all thought. You should have this in last class in your notes. You don't get it down now. Then we have the ruach, we said, which represents what do we say? Well, I said it's speech, emotions. But emotions as well, yeah? Thank you. Is that what he says? Let's look inside, really. Very, very good. And the nefesh, right, that's in the heart, slash represents speech. The two are connected. You speak from your heart, hopefully. And then we have the nefesh. And the nefesh, we said, is in the blood. Ki adam, says the pasuk. Ki nefesh. Adam. Hi ha nefesh, says the pasuk. And that's where that is located. Speech corresponds to ruach, he said. V'hadibur hu mebechina haruach. Ruach Hashem devar. B. B'voruach sefatav. The ruach, the wind, the spirit of the lips. Okay? So a speaking ruach, ruach mamalla. If you remember, Adam Rishon was created with as a nefesh chaya and became a speaking nefesh, a speaking being. Ruach mamalla. So speech, emotions, heart comes from there as well. And that's located in the lev, in the heart, he says. Ki ruach v'hevla dibu ikru shoto hi ola mahalev. Because your great speech should come from your heart, and the neshama is your understanding. He also says, also I didn't bring this down, the chai and yechida, he says, are in the spiritual planes, and no human being has ever succeeded in grasping them since Adam Harishon. Okay? That is a good start to today's discussion, without you realizing it, of why, we have that down, we go with that? Yeah, hello? Good, okay, great. So the next we're going to figure out then, which is going to lead us to the next topic, comes afterwards, is why are there so many mitzvot and why are they so detailed? Why so many mitzvot? And, more importantly to most yeshiva kids, why so much detail? It's not just like doing good stuff, it's when you do it, how you do it, which part of your body you do it with, what you're thinking about when you're doing it. There's so much that goes with this. What's up with that? What is up with that? So we'll begin, well, you know what, let's do a little bit of background here first of all, which most of you should know at this point if you had a good yeshiva education. How many mitzvot are there? 630, okay? As we say in Hebrew, Taryag, which is actually the gematria. 400, 210, and 3 comes to 613. Now we know that mitzvot are divided into different categories. One of the most famous categories are 2, 4, 8, and I'm waiting. Do some math. 2, 4, 8, 6, 13 less 2, 4, 8 comes to. Oh God. You're as bad as my math. 3, 6, 5. Okay. What is this division? Anybody know? Mitzvot aseh. Write this down. You obviously need to. Mitzvot aseh, the positive mitzvot, the stuff you're meant to do. And 365, is that equals 6, right? 365, 248. At the end of the 5, carry the 15, times 50, 3, 6, 13. So the 365 are the mitzvot. What do we call them? Lotaseh. Thank you. Lotaseh. I'm going to add another dimension to this as well, which is going to be important for our discussion. And that is, my dear friends, the number 248 is represented by another 3 letters. Just like Taryag represents 613. 248 is Ramach. And this is, what would this be, anybody know? Yeah? Shasa, right. Has anyone heard that expression before? Right, that's 248, 365. So you'll see many times Chazal will refer to this breakdown of Mitzvah. Does everyone know what Mitzvah Aseh means? If you don't, please ask, do not be shy. Perek Avot says, Abai Shalom Lamed, people are embarrassed to not learn. Okay, so Mitzvah Aseh stuff you have to do, right? Like, give tzedakah, eat matzah Pesach, stuff you're not allowed to do. Own chametz on Pesach, right? Kosher. By the way, where does kosher fall? Here or here? Since we're discussing it. Is it part of Ramach or part of Shasa? Very good. Part of Shasa. Stuff you're not allowed to do. You're not allowed to eat non-kosher food. You just left with kosher food. It doesn't make it a positive mitzvah to eat kosher food. It just means you can't eat non-kosher food. Okay? So these are, say the rabbis something else. They say, you know what? Not only are the mitzvot divided into 613 parts, something else is divided into 613 parts. Do we know what that is? The what? Your body, yeah. We have Ramach Evarim and Shasa Gidim. 248, they usually translate as limbs, and 365 they usually translate as sinews or connective tissues, whatever that means. So it's getting a little bit more complicated now, isn't it? See, not only is the Torah divided into 613 mitzvot, and not only is it divided into 2 groups, right? Well, you know that? Your body is also divided up into 613 parts. Limbs and sinews. Just for a minute, just think with me for a minute. What does that even mean? What are the implications of that? Whatever it means, it means. But what are the implications of that? What does that imply? Anything? What comes to mind? This is the quietest class I've ever taught at Stone College, which means you have no idea what I'm saying. You're a complete genius and you know it all already. Yes?
That each part of your body helps you do different mitzvahs.
That seemingly, for some reason, every mitzvah is connected to a different part of my body. But why? What is that even telling me? Why is that such an important concept? Yes?
Maybe that our physical bodies correspond to spiritual.
Okay. Somehow you have to say that. Somehow our physical bodies are corresponding to some spiritual something. Maybe every mitzvah impacts a part of your body. Maybe every time you do a mitzvah with a part of your body, you're actually impacting your neshama. Is that possible? Well, that's what the Chofetz Chaim says. Let's have a look at the Chofetz Chaim's introduction to the laws of Lashon Hara. Interestingly, why he put it over there, but his introduction to the laws of Shmirat HaLashon, he says the following idea, my dear friends and students. He says, Yadua, it's known. The Chol Adam Yesh Ramach Ever B'Shasa Gidim. You're actually made up of 600. For some reason, the Chofetz Chaim assumes we know it. Well, you do know because I just told you. But he seems to think that you kind of know it immediately. That your body is divided in 613 parts. If I do this. I can see you. How's it going over there? How do you mind if I can't see you? You okay with that? You can move over so I can see you as well. That's okay. You can get close to your friend as well, though. That's perfect. I like to see my students. There you go. Yaduhu d'chol adam yesh lo ramach v'shasa gidim ruchnaim, which are spiritual in nature. V'haleihem. But not only that, you also have these 613 parts. Malbushim marach evarim shasa gidim gishmiyim. So you have, he says, 613 parts of your neshama, of your soul, and that is clothed by your body that is made up of 613 parts of your, God bless you, goof, of your body. Yeah? And he's going to quote Job, Eov. Who's Eov, by the way? Since he's going to quote him, I don't know who he is. Who's Eov? I never heard of Job. Book of Job. Eov. You heard of him? Anybody? Who was he? Anybody know? Chofetz Chaim's going to quote him. He's probably an important person. One opinion is that he didn't exist at all. There was an analogy, says the Gemara, written by Moshe Rabbeinu, to help answer the big question, why bad things happen to good people. So he wrote that book. But most people say, Rashi among them, no, he was an actual person. When did he live? At the time of Paro and Yisro. He was actually non-Jewish. And he lived in Canaan. And he was an extremely righteous non-Jewish individual who had tremendous merit because of his great suffering that he withstood and other things that he did. So much that he actually kept the Jewish people out of Israel because of his great merit. When I say Jewish people, I mean Moshe Rabbeinu, Aaron, Miriam, and the entire Jewish people, and the Torah. That's why Hashem had to kill him to let the Jewish people enter eventually. Pretty wild, right? That was actually the funeral that was being held when the spies went into Israel. They actually saw his funeral because many people were mourning the loss of this great individual, and that's why the spies were not spotted. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's have a look at the verse. Chapter 10, verse 11. It says, Or ubasar talbisheni, you clothed me with flesh and skin. Over atzmot v'gidim tischoraneni, and you have covered me with bones and sinews. The verse, he says, mentions skin, flesh, bones, sinews, and refers to covering and clothing, as if to say that the body that we have is the covering of our neshama. Who is being clothed? Says the Chofetz Chaim rhetorically, Ve'et mihil bish im lo nefesh b'kirba. So your body is coming to clothe your neshama. She etzem adam, which is what you're all about. That's the etzem. It doesn't mean the bone over here. It means that's what you're really all about. You really are in neshama, and the body's giving you to cover it up. V'al kol ever ever shel nefesh malbish melamala. So each and every limb of your soul is being covered from above. Ve'ever haguf hamchona keneged evarhu kamabeged alu. Just like clothing is there to cover the body, so too the body comes to clothe the neshama. Ukeneged zeh, and corresponding to this, Natan lanu Kadosh Baruch Hu ramach mitzvot ushasa lo ta'aseh. 248 things you should do, and 365 things you shouldn't do. Vehem muchalakim gam kein alai verim, and they are divided up into sinews. Diyesh mitzvah tu lebiyad, because you'll notice, he says, that the reason these mitzvot are attached to body parts is because some mitzvot you do with your hand, and some mitzvot you do with your foot, and some mitzvot you do with your mouth, and some mitzvot you do with your ear. So what's actually happening is that every mitzvah you accept, there are only 6 mitzvot tamidiyot, 6 mitzvot that you do not do with your physical body, but just do with your mind and think. The 6 constant mitzvot, which is another discussion, we'll get to that list later on. But besides that, you're always doing a mitzvah, but you're using your body. So each part of your body is being affected by that particular mitzvah. Because it's your body that's actually clothed in the neshama. That's what he's saying. I'm just telling you what the Chofetz Chaim is saying. You can see it in black and white. You have a mitzvah you do with your hand, or you do with your foot, right? Or we call sha'avarim. They see Mayim Macharonim is your back. People have back pain, you do Mayim Macharonim. I don't know. There's all these kind of breakdown of body parts and mitzvot, but the two are connected. Your body is a reflection of your soul, and your soul is a reflection of all 613 mitzvot. This is important information. Very, very important. And when a person in this world fulfills a mitzvah, be'ezer ever, with a particular limb of their body, shoreh la'atid, in the future, this is why I mentioned in this course, in the future time, there is going to fall upon that particular Aver or Hashem a light of God. What is he talking about? In the future, there's going to be a light of God that is going to shine upon that particular body part. What is he talking about, the Chofetz Chaim? What's he saying here? In the future, you're going to have a body part that is going to have a light shown upon it. When is this going to be happening, anybody?
Mashiach?
No, not Mashiach. Tichet HaMeitim, resurrection of the dead. And when you die, there's no body. It's going to be your body is going to be infected. So your body's going to have a strong relevance when it comes to this. That a light is going to shine upon that particular body. What does that mean? I don't know. I'm telling you what the Chofetz Chaim says. But somehow each body part is going to be positively impacted by the mitzvah that was done with that part of the body. That's what he says. Nimsa, you there find, subsequently, Okesha Adam, Mikaim Haramach Asim, when you fulfill these 248 months, as to Adam Hashlem Hamkudash Lashem B'chol V'rav, you're perfecting your entire body through your limbs. Okesha Adam Zahir Melavoda Allah Lavin Shabbat Torah, and then when you are careful not to do one of the lavin, one of the forbidden 365, Hu Mamshich Or Kedusha Al Gidi Nafsha, you're actually impacting your body as well as your soul. So your body has relevance. The guf is important, as we said, not just to keep yourself healthy, because it's going to have some way of doing it, okay? So that's a beginning to the answer of why the mitzvah is so detailed, because you got a lot of parts of your soul, and you got a lot of parts of your body, and it's all going to come into play after Mashiach comes, when Tchiyat HaMeitim kicks in, which is its own time period. When that is a matter of a dispute, we're going to discuss it. But that's what happens. Okay? Questions, thoughts, comments? And in the time, yes, Ray.
It kind of sounds like you say that certain parts of your body during Tchiyat HaMeitim is going to kind of come back in a sense. Like if you don't use your body, you're not going to come back.
Okay, that's a different question. Kol Yisrael yesh lam chelek olam haba. Every Jew has a chelek in olam haba. Olam haba, we're going to see, refers specifically, technically, to Tchiyat HaMeitim. Therefore, every body part comes back. I mean, the question will come in reincarnation, which one of those bodies, but we'll discuss when we get to reincarnation, right? Which when all these fighting girls get excited, they want to hear about it. That's what they care about. That's why they're here. Reincarnation, Mashiach, right? But at that point, the body comes back, and somehow, whatever this means, each limb is going to be affected by the mitzvah that were done with them, or the averut that were done with those limbs as well. So it affects your olam haba. But the weird thing is not just your soul, even your body. That's the wild part. The body is going to be included in that process in some way. As he describes it, a light is shown upon it. Okay? That's Chofetz Chaim. Anyone else? Are we cool? Are we good? Fantastic. Let's have a look at what I call the second least studied Rambam in the Mishnah Torah. So, okay, we're trying to figure out why so many mitzvah, why such a... So we're going to look at two ideas behind mitzvot in general, okay? Two ideas behind mitzvot in general of the purpose for mitzvot. We'll start with the Rambam. And the Rambam at the end of Hilchot Amar, by the way, this is the second least studied. What's the first least studied? We did it this semester already. The laws of health and fitness. That's the least studied. This is the second least studied. By the way, if I had my way, I'd take this piece of Torah of the Rambam, I would print it onto a poster, and I would post it on the door of every yeshiva in the world, or at least here in America. This is the least studied but the most important Rambam I think that exists. Listen to the word. It's a very short Rambam, but it's very important. V'chol elu ha'devarim. All of these matters, either mitzvot, because that's what he's talking about. What are they for? What are the reasons for the mitzvot? Kedei l'chof et yitzra. All the mitzvot ultimately come to help us, to force us actually, our negative yetzara, uletaken deotav, v'rov dinei Torah enan ela etzat merachok hagadol ha'etza letaken hadeim l'sheh kol ha'maasim. You know why we're given so many mitzvot? Because we are imperfect beings. The mitzvot come to make us have a better character, to improve our midot. Why so many mitzvot? Says the Rambam, I'm reading what it says over here. They are advice, as he calls it, from God to help us improve our ma'asim, become nicer people, improve our character. That's a wild Rambam. That'd be good. You're studying Torah, doing mitzvot, but you're not becoming a nicer person, you're missing the entire point. You're missing the whole concept of Torah and mitzvot. So the mitzvot suddenly from the Rambam. Now we're kind of going to look at two worlds. You have the world of the Rambam, which some people call the rationalists, which I don't really like, but we'll do that anyway, and the mystics. Okay? So the Rambam's like, why did each mitzvah come? It comes to help become a better person. Now sometimes that makes sense, right? Giving tzedakah, I get it. Kibbut avim, I get it. Don't kill, I get it. But he's including all the mitzvot. Eating matzah somehow should be making you into a better, nicer person. Hearing the shofar should somehow be making you a better and nicer person. It should be changing your character. That's what he's saying. That's all the mitzvot. Why do we have mitzvot? To help you become a better person. So the mitzvot are not for Hashem, right? Like we think we do a nice thing for our parents. That's what our parents want. Nah. They want you to become a better person. The mitzvot are there for us to improve ourselves, not for us to, please God, as it were. The Ramban adds to this, and he says that God, ein lo to'elet b'mitzvot, l'kadosh baruch hu. God doesn't benefit our mitzvot. God is perfect. He doesn't need our mitzvot. Just like I don't need that drawing of a 5-year-old child, right, of, Noach on the ark, which, by the way, I hate. I hate that. The kids come home, Parashas Noach this week, with Noach and his sons and wife and kids on the ship like it's a cruise ship. You know how disgusting that experience was? Do you know how he didn't get to rest for 1 minute? It stank on that ship. The whole thing was horrible. Yet the kids come up with projects and he's on a cruise ship, right, going through the ocean, having a good time with his family. No, it was a gross experience. Believe me, you did not want to be in that ship. It was a 1-year hole. Anyway, the mitzvah do not come. So the kids bring it in, they're like, oh, look, Ima, Abba, look what I drew. All right? I'm like, I don't need that. We don't say that to them because they need it. They need to write it down so they learn it. It's for their benefit. Same with the mitzvot. Mitzvot, Hashem doesn't need the mitzvot. We need to perform them. But the benefit of doing mitzvot is for the person themselves. Limno b'menu nezek. In order to avoid damage. Now he doesn't specify what damage, but elsewhere it's written that physical damage, like got to build a roof, right, with a gug, right? So we know there's certain things which avoid physical damage, but also spiritual damage. Yeah, he's got to include that as well. Or emunah, ra'ah, or to avoid bad faith. The mitzvot also come to take away bad philosophical ideas from our minds, right? Help us believe in Hashem. Or midah meguna. The mitzvot also come to remove bad midot from us. That's what the mitzvot are doing. Or Now this is so Ramban. This is very Rambani. Nachmanides Ramban says a number of places, many of the mitzvot, including obviously all the Pesach mitzvot and Shabbat, and many others are there, not all of them, but those ones, Lizkor Hanissim, to remember the miracles. The Ramban very into miracles, right? He's a big Kabbalist, the Ramban. The Rambam wasn't. You have to remember the great miracles, Haniflot, Haboyis Brach, Ledat Hashem, which help us know God. He actually says that's the reason we remember Zecher Yetziat Mitzrayim on Shabbat. By keeping Shabbat, you remember the great miracles that was done to the Jewish people in Egypt, and that makes you have great emunah and belief in God. So he says that's a major part of it. V'zeu litzaref behen. That's why the Torah says the mitzvah kam litzaref. They purify us. I'll write that words down. I'm going to be nice. This is what the Rambam and the Ramban, they both quote this idea. The mitzvah kam litzaref. To purify. The mitzvah are coming to purify our souls, and by the way, since we mention it, even our bodies. For what? For Tchilat HaMeitim. Yeah? Just like gold or silver is refined, so too the mitzvah come to do that. Ki hatzur of kesef ein masur belotam. Right? Because the person who refines it does not do so for no reason. Aval lo tzim menu kol sig. He wants to get rid of all the shmutz. How do they purify gold and silver? They boil it, they burn it up, and they take all the dross off it. Right? Same thing. V'chen mitzvot lo tzi milibenu. They take out of our hearts kol emunara, all the bad emunah, right? Or the lack of emunah. Uliadanu ha'emet l'schol tamid. That we're able to remember Hashem all the time. So that's why, says the Ramban, you're busy with so many mitzvot because you've got to remember Hashem. And the way to do that is to get rid of bad emunah and put in good emunah. And the mitzvah will help you do that. It's going to be the mitzvot that are going to assist you in doing that. Yeah? Let's have a look at a very famous conversation between Rabbi Akiva and Turnus Rufus. This is a midrash. It may be Gemara. I don't remember seeing the Gemara ever, but then again, I haven't been through the entire Gemara yet. However, this is a very famous conversation between the two. This is the midrash. And the midrash talks about, it's a story, but there's a lot of depth to this story. Between Turnus Rufus Harasha, the evil Turnus Rufus, and Rabbi Akiva. Masa, there was an event. Shishal Turnus Rufus Harasha, the evil Turnus Rufus, he was the Roman general, at Rabbi Akiva. He met Rabbi Akiva, and he wanted to ask him a question. Eze ma'asim na'im. Whose actions are better? Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or Shel Basar V'Dam, or mankind? Who does better things, God or man? Now, how would you answer that question? Who's better at doing stuff, God or mankind? You would say God, right? That would be the obvious question. Rabbi Akiva answered the opposite. Amalei shel bnei Adam. They are nicer. Turnus Rufus said, mankind's actions are better? Mankind is better? Hare, hashman va'aretz, yichol adam la'asod b'yosebem. Can man make heaven and earth? Obviously, God's actions are better. So Rabbi Akiva said, no, you can't change the rules of the game. If you're comparing actions of God, actions of man, you've got to give me something that man's able to do. Right? If you're going to make a comparison, it's got to be apples to apples, or oranges to oranges. It can't be apple to oranges, or oranges to apples. Amalei Rabbi Akiva, lo tamali devashu l'mala min habriot. Don't give me an example, heaven and earth, that mankind is not able to do. Shein sholten alav. Ella omed dvarim shem mitzuyim b'nei. Give me an example of something that mankind can do. That's going to be a fair comparison. You want to figure out who's greater, man or God? Turnus Rufus turned to Rabbi Akiva, said, fine. Amalei lama atan molin. Why do you Jews, and this is the reason I bring down this midrash right now, why do you Jews do Brit Milah? Why do you do Brit Milah? Amalei, yeah, Ani hayiti yoder shal davar zeh ata shoalini. I know that's what you're going with, because remember the Romans, like the Greeks that preceded them, were against circumcision. They thought the body was perfect, the form, right, and the function of the body were perfect. Don't change anything in there. We give birth, and right afterwards give this little 8-day-old baby a brit milah. So he's like, why do you circumcise your children? So Rabbi Akiva said, I knew you were going to ask me that. I knew where you were going with this whole thing. And that's why I answered and said that the actions of mankind are better than God. Because I knew that was your underlying question. Then Rabbi Akiva did the following to answer the question. Hevi lo Rabbi Akiva shibalim. He brought him grains of wheat. And he brought loaves of bread. A cake. Nice, big, delicious cake. Amalei, Rabbi Akiva said to Terence Rufus, which one is better? Which one is better? Is a cake better than grains of wheat? Kind of like. Of course, a loaf of bread, right? A big, juicy, delicious 7-layer cake is better than wheat. He said, well, who made the wheat? God. Who made the cake? Mankind. Veilu maseh yadei adam. Therefore, the actions of man are better than the actions of God. There's your answer. End of Midrash. What is going on over here, people? Somebody please explain to me, what has all this got to do, and what has this got to do with Mitzvot, and maybe specifically what's got to do with Brit Milah? Why was that brought up? We have a little bit why. Because the Romans were against and actually forbade Brit Milah, like the Greeks before them. What is going on over here? Elisheva, speak to me.
Hashem gave us the mitzvot, but it's like on us to do with them and like act upon them.
Okay. So on a surface level, the mitzvot in this as a nimshal, that's the mashal, the nimshal is, the mitzvot are like the cake, which is greater than the wheat. Man is made raw, like wheat, and it's our job to do some pu'ulah, in this case actually physically change the human body in order to improve it.
Oh.
So he's saying the mitzvot are coming to improve. The mitzvot are specifically coming to improve. Right? Interestingly, in this case, even the physical body, but our character traits go in line with that as well. Very fair? I mean, that's the basic understanding of the Midrash. Probably a lot more going on. Anybody else? Yeah.
I think it's also just like the whole world. It's like God made the world for us, but He only gave us like the raw materials. Then like we're
The entire physical world, from the day of the sin of Adam Rishon, was given to us as raw material. And we humans are also raw material. And we perfect the world, cake, wheat, right? Because that was part of the curse. And we affect ourselves by doing mitzvot. Because in the end, it's the mitzvah, Brit Milah, that comes to perfect mankind. There's another subtext of this entire midrash, that the Romans were licentious people. And Brit Milah comes specifically as a message to control these sexual urges as well. Which is why it was given even to Avraham Avinu, because that was his passport into Israel. We're going to see that Brit Milah is a precondition. That means the control over that area of sexual desire is directly connected to getting and keeping the land of Israel. They are connected. That's why before the Jewish people went into Israel under Yoshua, they all had to be circumcised. That's why Abraham had to be circumcised before he went into Israel. Yeah, it's all connected. Yeah. Any other thoughts on this midrash? Okay. This leads us to our next question then, which is the inevitable next question, which is, are we obligated to understand any or every particular mitzvah? Is there an ability, are we able somehow to be able to understand the reason for every or any particular mitzvah. Now we're going to see two schools of thought. The first, Rav Chaim Volozhin is going to mention it, but it's mentioned elsewhere, more of the Kabbalistic understanding, and then we'll see the Rambam. Okay, so let's do this together. And this is going to be important because we're going to see certain mitzvot are necessary for the arrival of Mashiach. Certain specific mitzvot, which is where we're going this entire course, if you remember, because that's where world history is going. Okay, so this is going to be called what's called Tamei HaMitzvot. Are we able to know the reasons for the mitzvot? That's what we're going to have to try to understand. Just one point of background until we get there. We already divided the mitzvot into Aseh Lo Taseh, yeah? Ramach and Shasa. But there's another division that we need to make. And that is the three types of mitzvah. Does anyone know what the three types of mitzvah are? The first type, what we called chukim. What are chukim? What are chukim, somebody? Mitzvah that we don't know the reason for. What's called in English statutes. When I was a kid, I was like, statutes? Why are they giving us statutes? It's statutes. Right? Reason, mitzvah we do not know the reasons for. Okay? Which include paraduma, right? The red heifer, the paraduma, right? That red, perfectly red cow that was killed and burnt. And the ashes were added to water and sprinkled upon a person to make them pure to go to the Beit HaMikdash, which is why you can't go on Har HaBayit, or definitely the main section, because we still have a Tumah Met that is not purified because we don't have the red cow. As a side point. What other mitzvot fall under this?
Kosher?
What?
Kosher?
Yeah, kosher, yeah. Is it kosher? Yeah, who said that? Yeah, kosher, yeah. Rashi calls this a chok. We'll see why, because we're going to focus on kosher as one particular mitzvah. Any other mitzvot? What's the famous one? Shatnez, wool and linen. The reason behind that, we do not know the reason for. I'll tell you something weird though. The Kabbalists, as we're going to see, as I'll show you inside, are going to give us reasons for kosher. And you read reasons for the red heifer and reasons for shatnez. Yet they're still called chukim. Okay, what's mitzvah number 2? Type 2. Very good, mishpatim. What's that? What are mishpatim?
How we do know the reason?
So yeah, I mean, mishpat literally means laws, right? Laws. And that's the stuff, for the most part, stuff that society, right? No stealing,
Isn't mishpat a sentence?
killing.
Sentence.
A word is mishpat, yeah. Right? But over here, it's a law. Mishpatim are laws, no stealing or killing. Right? I guess you call that the common sense stuff. The common sense laws that most, hopefully, societies function on. Actually, they have to, because this is actually one of the Sheva Mitzvah B'nai Noach as well, as we'll figure out. Okay, that's Mishpatim. And that's the basic law, stuff that you could have figured out had the Torah not been given. Right? Most societies that claim to be just and fair will have laws of Mishpatim. Okay? American law is a law of Mishpat, but not of Chukim. So what's number 3? Anybody know? So these are called Edut, or testimonies. This, say Chazal, are the mitzvot that affect, I mean, they're kind of like in between these two, right? They're the things that I guess we could have figured out, but not as much detail as they come. Shabbat and the holidays, they come to testify about stuff, right? Sechet Yusuf Mitzrayim, or Matan Torah, right? That's what falls inside these. These things that are signs that come to testify about certain things that happen in Jewish history. Those are your 3 types of mitzvot. Okay? With that being downloaded, the question we have to figure out now is what's called the Tamei ha-mitzvot. The word tameh, what does the word tam actually mean?
Taste.
Well, taste, yeah. The taste. What is the taste of a mitzvah? What does that refer to? Sometimes referred to as a shoresh. The Sefer Chinuch calls it the shoresh of the mitzvah. Basically means the reason. Yeah? Because when you know the reason for a mitzvah, right, it becomes, I guess, tastier. You enjoy it more. And now I know I'm doing it. Although there are mitzvot that I don't know the reason for, they are the minority. It doesn't take away from their performance or the reward that comes with them. But now I'm trying to figure out, are you able to figure out the reason, the rationale? Maybe that's a better, let's go with that, yeah? The rationale, right, for a mitzvah. So we're going to have two schools of thought when it comes to the rationale of a mitzvah. And number one, the Kabbalists are like, are you joking? Are you like kidding? Where did the mitzvah come from? The Torah. Where did the Torah come from? Hashem. Hashem's mind. Right? Anochi. Ana nafshi katavti havet. I, my soul, has been written and given. You think you'd understand God's reasoning for every mitzvah? This precious thing that's going to get you into Olam Haba? Are you crazy? Ki tameh mitzvot atchelatam lo nitgalu adayin. We do not know the reason of any mitzvah. L'shum adam ba'olam af Moshe Rabbeinu. Even Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know the reason for the mitzvot. Woo! It's a big statement. He brought us the Torah from Shemayim, greatest prophet that ever lived, but he never knew the reason for the mitzvot. Wow, is that possible? I mean, really? Like, really? He says, Ki ha-Torah kadosha, the Torah is kadosh. Afilu melamala emanates from, Atzula melamala, comes from a high place. Rosh me'al kol hasagot, it's beyond understanding. The Torah is beyond understanding. The mitzvot are beyond understanding. The en efshar, shia hadavar masul asagabadam. Humanity can never understand mitzvot. But why should I do my mitzvot? Because every question I ask my kids on Shabbat, what do they always say? Because Hashem says so. Yeah, but why? Because Hashem. It's like the get out answer to every question you're asked in Jewish day school, in yeshiva. Why did this? Because Hashem said so. One approach. We could leave it there, but others disagree. And the Rambam and others, et al., say no. They're like, you're right, the Torah is kadosh, the mitzvot are kadosh, but we are still obligated, to the best of our abilities, to try to figure out what each mitzvah is doing for us. Look what he says. Afal pi shekol chukei Torah gezerim hem. Even though you're right, all the mitzvahs of the Torah are gezerot. Ra'oi, it is fitting, litbonen behem, to think about them. V'chol ma shati yochol liten lo tam, and whenever you can give a rational explanation for the reason of a mitzvah, ten lo tam, give it a reason, give it a taste. Hari Amr Chachamim, Harishon, because the early rabbis told us, Shamelach Shlomo. We know that even King Solomon, write this down, knew the reason, Rov Hatamim, for the majority of the mitzvot. Really? King Solomon, the wisest of all people, knew the reasons for all the mitzvot, except, anybody know which one eluded even the great Solomon, the wisest of all men? Which mitzvah eluded him? He didn't know the reason for? It's on the board. You can cheat. Paraduma. So I never understood that. Now, what aspect of it he didn't understand, we don't know. Is it because the people who were pure became impure by applying it, and the people who received it were impure, became pure? Was it that aspect of it? That people would be purified at all was a mystery to him? We don't know what was a mystery. But we do know somewhere inside the mitzvah, something very mysterious. It was a mystery inside an enigma, inside a box. Never knew. But he knew most. So Shlomo Melech knew the reasons for most. He actually knew a lot. He even understood the language of the animals. Did you know that? He's our Dr. Doolittle. He even knew the language of the animals. He knew where to plant various fruits and vegetables and spices in Israel. He knew exactly where the correct veins were, the Giddim it says, where to plant things. He had tremendous wisdom. So he figured out the reason for the Mitzvot. Could someone please tell me a problem or potential challenge with thinking or trying to figure out the reasons for the Mitzvot? Because there's got to be a flip side to this. Is there a danger of trying to figure out, Aviva?
Maybe if you don't really completely search.
If you don't figure it out, okay, maybe you feel discouraged, right? Or don't have an impetus to keep doing it. Why am I keep doing these mitzvot? That's possible. What's another danger? Yeah, Julia?
Because you might know the reason and be like, this doesn't apply and you want to do it.
You're going to say
Might
that?
not agree with it. Yeah.
You might not agree with it. Oh, I see. That's the reason for the mitzvah. Well, it hasn't applied. Oh, the reason for kosher is because pigs are dirty animals and you get trichinosis. Therefore, come a large group of Jews, right, to this very day, right? Therefore, the laws of kosher don't apply. Oh, we made a mistake. Now you removed yourself from Torah and mitzvot because you're using the rationale that you think you made with your finite brain and your own deficient logic of a reason why. Now you're using that. And even, I wouldn't say this, but the Torah tells us, even Shlomo HaMelech did this. What mitzvah did Shlomo HaMelech actually...
Having too many wives.
How many too many wives? That's right. How many wives is a king allowed to have?
Had
18.
he had more because he
He had a lot because he felt he could impact the world. And we know that he made a rationale, made a cheshbon that could affect the world, right? He was Shlomo HaMelech, right? One of the greatest kings that ever lived, right? Author of, Mishlei, Kohelet. There's no one greater than Shlomo HaMelech besides Moshe Rabbeinu, right? And yet, his quote-unquote overthinking ended up leading to a mistake. I wouldn't say that. That's what Chazal tell us, right? How many wives did he have?
800 then.
It's like 1,000. Some say literally 1,000. Some say no. Just means he had a lot. And what's the punishment of having 1,000 wives? 1,000 mother-in-laws. Okay, so that's the Rambam. Okay, so the Rambam's going to say that Afal Pisha Kol Chayei Torah Gezerim Hem Ra'oi. You should think about them, figure it out, but still remember that we can't get full understanding. The Rambam, by the way, the Rambam does this. The Rambam goes to his commentary, and so he even gives reasons for. By the way, people were very upset with the Rambam. The Rambam's time, they burnt his books. They were very upset. He came along, wrote the Mishnah Torah, and said, reasons, here are the laws, and this is what you need to know. This is a big thing to do. You've got to have broad shoulders, God bless you, to come along and give you reason for every single mitzvah. Right? This spiritual job. Says the Ramban, and we will finish with this one last piece on the other side. Ooh. Yeah, we're going to have to. Says the Ramban, Amru, it says in Pirkei Avot, a person should be as careful with a light mitzvah as a heavy mitzvah. What does that mean? What is Pirkei Avot telling us? Be careful when performing a light mitzvah in addition to a heavy mitzvah. What's a light mitzvah and heavy mitzvah? What is that? What is that Chazal telling us? Right? A mitzvah kala and mitzvah chamura. He says, be very careful. Careful to do these light ones, right, with as much desire as the heavy ones. What is that referring to? What's a light mitzvah? Or an easy mitzvah? Maybe that's better, yeah?
Because you don't know what is easy and hard. You don't know what to read.
Okay, so one answer would be, we don't know the difference. You don't know what's important to Hashem or what you need to do as an individual. Alright? Easy/hard. One thing you gotta do. What else? What does this mean? Well, there's two ways to look at this. Objectively and subjectively. Objectively, some mitzvot are easier. Like putting a mezuzah on a door is easier than kibbutz avim. Right? For most people, you spend $20, $30, $50, stick on the door, and that's it. That's an easy mitzvah. Kibbutz avim much harder. But he says, objectively, don't make that mistake. Mitzvah may be as precious as any other mitzvah. Hashem just gave us a favor and gave us a light. Don't let it be light. It's so easy, forget about it. That's the objective. So objectively, they're all important to Hashem, to God. But there's another possibility, and that is what I call subjective. Some mitzvot are easy to certain people. Giving tzedakah to certain people are easy, and some people giving tzedakah is very, very difficult. Right? Putting the hand in their pocket, take out $1 to give someone is like extracting a tooth. Some people giving away $10,000 is easy. Right? So subjectively, if it's easy for you, don't look down upon it. Although it's easy for you, it still may be very, very important. Right? Even the easy are important as much as the hard. It depends where you are on the... Okay? So all mitzvot are precious, no matter where they rank. Amru, havizar misakal kachamura. Shekulan, says the Ramban, chamudot v'chavivot ma'od. All mitzvot are very precious and important to Hashem. Shebakol sha adam moda behen lelokav. Because all mitzvot, every time you do a mitzvah, you acknowledge there's a God. V'kavana kol mitzvat shenamin belokeinu v'noda alav shehu baro. Every mitzvah you do, you're admitting there's a God, because the God is the one who gave it to you, and you are thanking Hashem for creating us. One last very important piece of Torah. And this will finish off today's class nicely, I hope. Okay, so mitzvah kala chamura are the subjective objectively, they're all important. Don't see that's a small, that's not an important one. They're all important, they all have significance. Whether, and you can apply to whether you know the reasons or not. If you don't know the reasons for a mitzvah, they're important because Hashem says so. And if you have figured out the reason, what it does for you or someone else, it's still important to do every mitzvah, they're all important. Okay? I mean, there are light mitzvot, but that's just the way Hashem created the world. All the Torah. Okay. Let's finish off today. We did a lot today, I know. But just focus 5 more minutes because I want to get through this very important final piece. You cannot discuss Tameh HaMitzvot without discussing a book called the Sefer HaChinuch.
Are we on page 26?
We are on page 26. The Sefer HaChinuch. The Sefer HaChinuch gives us a beautiful understanding. He gives us the reasons for each mitzvah. So he does exactly what the Rambam wants us to do. Exactly what we're going to do. He lists off, he has a book. Actually, we don't know who he was, by the way. Book of Education it's called. The Book of Education. And it's divided into 613 parts. Makes sense, right? But it goes by the parasha. So it starts with Bereshit and gives you all the mitzvot in Bereshit, which is not many, and the reason and how to do each one. We don't know who he was, which is weird because usually we know who every rabbi is from history. We know he's a Levi. We know he lived in Barcelona. We know his name was Aaron. That we know. And we know he had a son who was about to become bar mitzvah, and his son was playing around all the time and not studying. And he said, I'm going to give you a book with the reasons for the mitzvah. Maybe that'll motivate you. That was his bar mitzvah gift. Not a big party, right? He gave him a book. What a beautiful way to celebrate bar mitzvah. Writing your child a book for their bar mitzvah. And this became a classic called the Sefer HaChinuch. Okay? Sefer HaChinuch became an absolute classic. And in it, he gives the reasons for all the mitzvot. The reasons for all the mitzvot as he understood them. Pretty controversial, but he did it. Now, pause for a second and listen carefully. Look at me. In this book of reasons for all the mitzvot, why charity, why Shemitah, why Pesach, he gave reasons. You could buy this in Hebrew, it's available in English. Art Scrolls brought out a big set, and it goes through each of them. It's very, very interesting. There are a few parts in this book. There's a few parts where he stops the narrative and he says the following. Ki Adam nifal kefi polatam. Write these words down. Adam nifal kefi polatam. Adam nifal kefi polatam. At a few parts of his commentary, while describing reasons for mitzvah, he stops and he says, let me teach you a very important principle. I'm not going to tell you where he stops. Maybe you can tell me later on. But it's a few different mitzvot, he makes this point. And what is this point? What does this mean? Adam, a person, nifal. People are influenced by their actions. People are influenced by their actions. Now, this was a very revolutionary statement, and it's very important to understanding Torah. What should a person be influenced by? What do we say? You're influenced by your mind, your family, your friends. He's like, that may be true. But we know he's going to say that the thing that influences you the most is what you do with your body. By actions means with your body. And he says this very famous idea. Follow inside. It's a very important piece of Torah. Trust me. The libo and your heart, the whole machshotav and all your thoughts, tamid achamasav. You're going to influence your insides by what you do with your body. That's what he's the other way around. I'll think about something and I'll act upon it. He's like, no, it's the other way. You work from outside to inside. What you do with your body is going to influence who you are as a person. Shu'asa b'hem. Im tov, im ra, whether good or bad. It's going to work good or bad. V'afilu rasha gamor. Imagine a person who's really bad. Like a bad person. Bilvavo in their heart. Just a mean, nasty individual. And all they think about all day is how I'm going to hurt people, steal from people, cheat from people. This is like a really bad person. All they do all day is think how I'm going to hurt other people. Imagine you got such a person. Just, there's people in high school, there's always one person like this, right? Just a mean, nasty person. Look what he says. Im yare rucha, if their spirit is suddenly awakened. V'yasim yishtadlatov bat madot Torah mitzvot. And they say, I want to become a better person. And they start to learn Torah, and start to do mitzvot. Afilu shalosh l'shem shemayim. Even if they do it for ulterior motives. They start to do mitzvot, not because they want to, because they want people to think of them nicely, or miyad, immediately, yinatel tov. They become good. They start to lean towards the good. Why? Because the actions they do with their body will kill their Yetzirah. Because we know, your heart is influenced by your body. Imagine you got a person who's really, really good. Just a nice, sweet, lovely person who's always sweet and saying good things, has good motivations. Yashar v'tamim, straight and simple and sweet. Chafet, and they desire, always talking good. I need to do this. I need to get better. I need to improve myself. Don't think they get involved in stupid things with stupid people. So they're good people inside, but they get involved with stupid things. Yashuv Zman min Zman, what happens to them? After a amount of time, they become bad. It affects their insides. But you say there's a nice person. Hang around with bad people, do stupid things. Your body influences who you are. Your actions influence you more the other way around. And it says very quickly, they become a Rasha Gamor. Ki yadua, because we know it's true. Hadavar ve'emet is true. Shekol adam nifal k'fi because you're influenced by actions which you do with your body, specifically in the context of our class, but not limited to. Torah mitzvot will make you into a better person. Even if you just do it because I have to do it, because my Rebbe said, and my parents are guilting me out, and I want my name on the wall to give tzedakah. That's the reason I'm doing it. No problem. Still going to affect you positively. It's like the story of the Chavetz Chaim. Approached by a man. This is an amazing story. I just told my daughter yesterday. She's in Israel. She's speaking this Shabbat. I told her to tell this story at a seminary. A man was approached by the Chavetz Chaim who said he was offered a job in a bank. And he asked him, should I take the job or not? And the Chavetz Chaim said, it depends. Were you offered the job in the deposit window or the withdrawal window? It used to be in those days, there were separate tellers to deposit your money or withdraw your money. He goes, if you're offered the job in the withdrawal window, take the job. But if you're offered the job in the deposit window, don't take the job. You say, what's the difference? I'm not taking the money for myself. I'm not giving out my money. I tell you, if you spend your entire day in the withdrawal window and you spend the entire day just giving out money, you'll become a giver. And that's what a Jew should be. But if you spend your entire day just taking money in the deposit window, although you're not stealing it, it's their money, you're just putting it away for them, the act of taking all day with your body is going to influence who you are. And we Jews have to become givers, and therefore walk in the door window. So not only mitzvot, even the job you take, even your regular actions during the day are going to influence who you are. Ki adam nifal kefi pu'olatav. Are we cool?
Yeah.
Have a great day.